Hello, everyone. Welcome to Asian Americans Network program. We have this program weekly. Today, we're going to talk about how to get non-diluting investment from the government for startups. But before that, I'm going to invite our co-producer. We have two co-producers. One is Hong Yue Fang, another one is Sandy Wang. So I'm going to have Hong to give us the introduction of Asian Americans Network. Hong, microphone is yours. Please go ahead. Thank you. Hong, can you also turn on the microphone on Zoom so both people can hear you? Go ahead, please.
Yes, I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Asian Americans Network. We are on Clubhouse, and tonight, especially because we have a presentation with slides, we are also on Zoom, mainly for that matter. So Asian Americans Network is a safe and supportive public forum for diverse Asian Americans and their friends and allies to come together weekly to support each other. We normally share stories and joys and celebrations, as well as struggles and challenges, right? And for that matter, so we do have good information as well as training that will hopefully help you. So we meet every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. California time. You can join from anywhere. And it's every week on Tuesday night. A safe and supportive public forum to help you get to know each other and help each other out. Thanks for joining us tonight. Back to you, Diana. Thank you.
Thank you, Han. Thank you so much. Yes. For this event, we also have another co-producer, the COO of Dingding TV, Sandy Xiao, Sandy Wang. She's going to set the room on Clubhouse and also both on Zoom. Sandy, go ahead, please. Turn on your microphone. You are muted. Yes, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just muted myself. So welcome to the Asian American Networks. So today's event is around 1 hour. So first 20 to 30 minutes, Dr. Zhang is going to give us the speech. And we are going to open the Q&A session after that. So please raise your hand or type your question in the chat. So our moderator will go through the question or invite you to unmute yourself to ask the question to the Dr. Zhang directly. Okay, thank you very much. This is Sandy. I pass the microphone to Diana. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, everyone. And we also want to let you know that we're live streaming this event on Dingding TV YouTube channel. So if you get on YouTube and search Dingding TV, you will see this video is live streaming on that. So after this, you can also come back to watch the video or share this link to your friends who might need this. And also, I want to let you know that Professor Zhang will give a speech about 25 minutes. After that, we're going to open the Q&A. So we encourage you to ask questions. You can type your questions on the chat, or you can raise up your hand. We'll welcome any questions or interaction with our speaker. Let me introduce our speakers before we get started. Professor Zhang is an entrepreneur, data scientist, and executive in residence for startup companies. He was a CEO of Kit Solution LLC, a computer software company providing data-driven decision support service in the field of substance abuse prevention. As a invention of U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, he served on the National Advisory Council for National Institute for Drug Addiction between 2007 and 2010. He received several Sbir, Stdr, Phase 1, Phase 2, and Fast Track grant in the past 20 years, and served as the chairperson for the recent Sbir grant review panel. Currently, Dr. Zhang served as a senior business advisor to 3 startup companies in the area of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and augmented reality. He's also leading a data-informed decision support project funded by Phase 2 Sbir grant from CDC. So today we're so fortunate to have him tell us how to get the non-diluting investment from the government for startups and what you need to do to be able to get this grant. So next, I'm going to give the microphone to our speaker, Professor Xiao Zhang. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Let me share my screen so I can. Okay.
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
So can everyone see my screen now?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. Great. Hold on, let me 1 second. I'm gonna close some. Okay. Hello, everyone, and very glad to meet with. This is a very interesting, very informative webinar, and especially for Asian American, as a network. I really appreciate what Ding TV is doing. Today, I want to take this opportunity to share with you some of my experiences and knowledge about this dilution-free, investment from U.S. government for small business. And hopefully that will be useful. What I will do is I will share my knowledge probably next 20 to 25 minutes, and then after that, open for questions. I think something like this kind of business adventure, business issues, the best is through dialogue. So I understand where you come from, what you really want to know, and then try to share with you, as much as I know. So you can see, let's go start. And everybody who start business, we know, we all have these dreams, right? We came here for American dream. Early funding is always a big headache to any startups. Beyond the personal family and your friends, put your own money, and where can I find additional money to get something started? When you have a brilliant idea and you have something to offer. So of course, when we think about venture capital, I saw that too. I work with venture capital. But immediately there are 3 major problems we run into. One is the VC only interested in ventures that has huge market potential. They ask you how big is market. If it's anything, to them it's too small, they're not interested. Second thing is VC always have a kind of a short turnaround timeline to pay back to their investors. So what that means, usually they go by cycles, either 5 years, 7 years, or maybe maximum 10 years. They want their money back. That can put a lot of pressure on startup companies. And when you're subject to their scrutiny, and sometimes they also put in, the VC will appoint a CEO or some other major, business advisors, whatever, kind of to help you, guide you, but at the same time also put you against the deadline. And they really want their money because when they got VC money, there is time tag attached to that. I think many of you already know that. And the other thing is, at the early stage, every entrepreneur knows that in the early stage, your company does not worth much. And everybody believes in what you preach and what you think, what you imagine, what's your innovation. So if they do put money into your company, usually the VC may take a significant portion of your equity. So that is another downside. Of course, for some major and big potential, big project, maybe VC is your only choice, which I understand. But I just want to share with you, as a small business, these are some major concerns you'll have. So that's the reason I want to introduce and share with you what I have learned over the years about alternative. that alternative is called SBIR, STDR. SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research, and STTR stands for Small Business Technology Transfer. The main difference between the two is usually for SBIR, you basically propose something that you think about and then you want to pursue. It's pretty much your own idea. And STTR usually is leveraging some existing technology, especially from university, and where they already develop certain technology and maybe have a patent technology, so you can license that out and work out a deal with university or with the inventor, and then you transfer that, into a commercial space. So STTI is technology transfer, and these grants are designed to promote technology innovation. And the second one is also important: small business participation in federal spending. And this is actually part of a U.S. government try to promote small business development. So each year, for all the so-called participating agents, federal has many agents, not everyone participate. There are a lot do participate. For those participating agency, federal agency, each year, according to the SBIR legislation by the Congress, they have to allocate at least up to 3.5% of their total budget, annual budget, into this pot money to support SBIR programs. So that could be significant. And for example, in let's say in 2018 alone, there's $3 billion. Federal has a very big budget, so even that 3.4% for those participant agencies could go to $3.3 billion. And another thing you want to know about this program is SBIR, Stdr, they support scientific excellence and technical innovation through investing federal research fund, right? But in critical American priorities, okay, to build a strong national economy. So here's the keyword: priority. Now, what is the priority? Now, this is the challenge. Later, I want to talk about when you try to apply that and how you, because you need to learn what are the priorities that federal government and different agencies they're looking at. Military, for example, Department of Defense is a big supporter of SBIR, and for a lot of those, they want to develop specific support services or innovations that's supporting the battlefield, for example, supporting veterans, health care, etc. So you have to kind of match their interests. That's very important to know. And the other purpose, of course, is it's very important. I want to point it out. The grantee, once you receive the money, the grantee of the SBIR and STTR program will retain intellectual property, IP right, while very competitive, okay? And I'll share with the competition later. This program, SBIR, STTR grant fund, is an ideal R&D resource for startup companies, because startup company, what's the most valuable asset to you is the intellectual property you produce. And here you can have R&D money without any string attached to it. You own the intellectual property. So there are three phases of this SBIR, STTR grant programs. There are feasibilities, efficacy, and the commercialization. In phase one, the objective is to conduct a feasibility study of a proposed innovation, even something you just come up an idea. You can say, I want to use this money to build a prototype. That is a lot. You can just come up with your own idea, but of course, you tie that idea to the agency you want to apply for and to see what kind of research priority, what our interests they have. You're going to do that matching. So that phase one, you can have up to 6 to 12 months, half year to a year time. And with a funding level, now you say from $50,000 to about $250,000. So different agency may vary, little different variation, but this is a general guideline. So you can say for a startup company for 6 months, if you propose for 6 months project, if you can get $250,000 or $200,000, that's pretty significant, and that will help you to get your project started and get a prototype built. Phase 2, the objective phase 2 is to say, okay, phase 1, you test the feasibility of your innovation, both technically and also market acceptance. And they want to know 2 things. One is, can you do it technically? But second thing also, there's a market. So you want to also gauge the market as well. And phase 2's objective is, okay, you have now produced a phase 1. You have to have a phase 1 first, and then you can apply for phase 2. Now in phase 2, the objective is to conduct a efficacy study. So to say, okay, how valuable, how effective, how useful is innovation you produce in phase 1. So that's also in preparation for the phase 3, which is focused on commercialization. Now, phase 2 is very attractive, actually. Phase 2, because you can actually you have up to 2 years period to work on this, and you can receive a funding up to 1.7 million now. A few years ago, there was 1 million. Now, in the past few years, past 10 years, it has incremented quite a bit. So that's good news for small business. So you can have $1.7 million for 2 years to further develop your prototype and gauge the market and conduct piloting tests, validating the efficacy, and then get ready for commercialization. Now, phase 3, the objective is to commercialize the innovation resulting from the phase 1 and phase 2. And SBI Stdr program do not provide funding for phase 3. However, they do help you to make connections and give you credibility, give you validation, and promotion, etc. For those kind of things, they support you for the phase 3. So that's the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. If you want to know more about this, there are specific website. You can learn more about it. But this is give you a highlight. Now, next question, of course, how to succeed in getting SBIR STTR grants? Okay. Now, SBIR STTR grant program is very competitive. Myself, for example, the first SBIR grant I applied, it took me like 4 trials before I get my phase 1. Can be demoralizing in the sense you say, my God, you get all this critiques. But once you learn, you begin to learn the tricks. You understand what to do to have a better chance. So later, I improved my odds quite a bit. But many small business went through that process. And however, there are things one can do to increase your chance of success. So I'm just sharing with you some of the things what I learned. One is you really have to learn how to clearly define what you want to do. This is not easy. You come up with an idea, you do artificial intelligence, natural language processing, machine learning, those are hot topic today, or innovating a particular instrument for detecting. Let's say you want to detect COVID, you develop a tester, you develop an instrument that can help a medical procedure or whatever, you imagine and you can invent. But what's the most important is you must be able to clearly define that. When I say that is in 1 paragraph or maximum 1 page, you can very clearly delineate what exactly you want to do. That is not easy. It's a lot of homework to do. So think with clarity. That is the biggest challenge, the first step. Once you have that idea, you can clearly express that. What you do is you try to matching your innovation with a federal priority. All the participating agencies, there are about like 30 maybe plus, federal agencies participating in this SBIR program. So that means every year their budget, 3.5% of their budget has to be spent on SBIR. So and they publish their interest, their research interest, their R&D interest. They publish that, on the website. So you have to do some homework to find those and read them, try to understand, and do the matching. And once you found a good match, this is where the opportunity begin to open, the door begin to open to you. You want to reach out to SBIR project officer in the agency that you did the match, and then to share the idea and get feedback and the guidance. This is very different than many people that work in the university knows when they apply for R01, that's the research grant, very different from that, because for R01 research grant, once you apply, even when your preparation, you cannot talk to your project officer. Because once you talk to a project officer, they can kind of eliminate you from competition, from the submission, and that's considered as a conflict of interest, or you try to get advantage, but not in SBIR. I want to emphasize that many people made mistake on that. They didn't understand the nature of SBIR is the government want to promote you, want to help you to innovate and to develop something that can be useful to address their priorities. So once you have a match, and by the way, on all the priority lists for each agency, at the bottom of that, or at the beginning, they actually list who are the project officers for SBIR in that particular agency. Usually there are more than one, but usually they list a contact name. So that's the name you can reach out to. You talk to them and you share this idea. And if they provide some positive, they agree with you, your innovation actually matching one of their need, that's a good sign. So then you can, from there, and you can start preparing your applications, okay? So that's a tip I want to share with you. Now, there are a lot more detailed, and later if someone have interest, especially in question answers, I can give you more detail, but I want to give you the highlight here. Even let's say you fail to get SBIR after several tries, you give up, you say, forget it, I don't want to apply. It is still, to me, I feel it's still beneficial. The reason it's still beneficial is the application process forces you to think strategically, make you do homework, and they challenge you with tough questions because there is a specific template. You have to answer a question as you apply, and they force you to think. Do you have a market? Is there really a market need for this? Like a so what question, right? And how big is the market? Who are your competitors? Don't just jump into and do something and then later you find somebody already done that. You're just wasting your time. So those are very challenging questions. If you apply for this grant, you have to answer those questions. You have to face those. And when you receive a critique, there are I have been a reviewer myself, and I also chair review sessions, so I understand the whole process, how they review that. So some reviewers, they will have a very blunt and straightforward critique that make you feel, my God, I make you feel like you don't know anything about it, that kind of thing. You don't know what you're talking about. It could be devastating. But however, the reviewers' critiques will also highlight areas you may have overlooked and the fatal flaw you may never realize in your approach, how to do this thing, and the expertise you may need and you didn't know. So I think in those areas, when you read the critique from reviewers, it could be beneficial to you later, not only help you write better SBIRs, but also help prepare you to go after other funding sources. So everything you have written and prepared for SBIR application are useful for the future pitching and presentation to other investors. So that's another very important benefit. So now those are overviews. Now I'm very open to questions and providing answers. And it is my general conclusion, it is a good alternative to VC, especially for innovation in the niche market. If you only have a limited market, this will be a good money for you to have. And I have received 9 grants in the past 18 years, including SBIR Stdr phase 1, phase 2, and fast track. Fast track is you can combine phase 1, phase 2 together, and you can ask up to like 1.5 or even to $2 million. So, but that's kind of risky. You have to really know what you're doing before you do that. I only have one, and so I also have served as the grant reviewer as well. And right now I'm also working with 3 startups to obtain SBIR. For one of them just received their phase 2. They received phase 1 and phase 2. I coached them altogether. The phase 1 they got almost like $250,000, and phase 2 they got 1.7 million. So they're very happy now. They're on their way, to do their. I'm still working with them and coaching them, and the other 2 are just submit their SBIR phase 1, and we're waiting for the funding decision and also review critiques and funding decision. So I'm happy to answer any questions from the audience.
I have a question.
Okay.
David, okay, go ahead. Well, wait, David, hold on. Yeah, when we have like 23 people here, so when you got questions, you can raise up your hand and we will call your name. So I'm going to give this to Han to be the moderator for this section. But David, since you are the first, so please go ahead, David.
Yes. First, Dr. Zhang, once I already get the first review passed, so
Okay.
I'm in the second review. So I'm in the formal process. So during this review, before I get the result, can I contact the program moderator, like the one who gave me the permission, and also the chair of the area, like?
Okay. Here's the thing. When you, I assume you submit. Is this phase 1 or phase 2? Phase 1.
Phase 1.
Okay. Phase 1, you submit. You receive your summary statement, correct?
Yeah, he said, yeah, basically, he gave me a permission to submit.
You gave you permission to submit, and have you submitted already?
Yes, I did.
Have you received the review comment back, which
No.
usually they call a summary statement? You should receive something like that. Have you?
No, after I submitted the formal application, I haven't received any feedback. But
okay, then you have to wait. I think the next step is at this point, you submit. Okay, you can contact your project officer before you submit. That's good. But after you submit, they go to a so-called initial review group, right? They go to review group. It's called the scientific review group. And the scientific review group people are not your project officer. Their job is simply just to review, okay? They're separate process. And you're not supposed to contact anybody on that review panel. You're not supposed to contact that. And they will not respond to you. However, next step is you're gonna wait. They later will, maybe usually about a month or 2 months after you submit, and they will send you a notification to say your grant has been reviewed. And what's important at this time, you're looking for something called a impact score. They'll give you an impact score. Say how your innovation actually impactful. They give you a score, usually between let's say 10 to 50 or something in that range. And if you get into like 10 in the 10s or 20s, you're very good. You have very high chance just to get funded. And if you get like in the 30s, your score in the 30, 31, 32, 35, whatever, that's kind of iffy. You have like half chance. And if you get something above 40 and plus, you're pretty much out. And usually a different agency may be a little different. I don't know specific agency you actually apply for. But that's usually the benchmark you're looking for.
Yeah.
And
do you have a contact email or WeChat group? Like I hope in the future, like next time I'll try to consult you.
I think for my contact information later, I think Sandy is going to share it with you.
I see.
And Ding Ding TV is going to share with you. Yeah. So
Great.
we're going to funnel through. Yeah, then so that way it's easier to manage, because otherwise I don't know who is I couldn't make catch up. But yes, there are more details, and then the next step is once you receive. Next step is after you receive your impact score, you will receive something called a summary statement. Very important. Read that summary statement. Once you receive that, you can then review all the reviewers' critique about you for each place. So, and that's more detailed. And when you come to that point, and maybe I can help you to understand what the reviewer really saying, you know, and what they try to say. So
awesome. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Next question.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Zhang. And I also would like to thanks to Lisa Mandana, and she's from Mentors, Mentors Club. So Mentors Club and Dinding TV are the organizer of today's event. So who will be the next one? If you want to ask question and talk directly to Dr. Zhang, you can raise up your hand, or you can type your questions. We will invite him to answer your question. If you prefer to ask the question in Chinese, you're welcome to do so. The fact is, that this grant, from government, they're not even asking you to pay back or dilute your investment. So in that way, it's competitive, but it's really good. Very few of Asian entrepreneurs or startups can get this fund. So this is a good opportunity that we have the expert here. So Farah, you will be the next. Go ahead, Farah, ask your questions. Farah, you could unmute.
Yes. Thank you so much for the presentation, Dr. Zhang. My question is that how many years have the business to be incorporated in US? I'm actually an Asian outside of US, but I have a lot of strategic business partners in the US, and I would like to explore this possible opportunity. So I don't mind even to open a base in the US to actually explore this. And also, are there do they require any traction of sales on the initial consideration for the financial projections? Thank you.
Good question. That's an important point. SBIR is for US-based organization only, and also has to be for profit. If you're non-profit, you cannot. Okay, so that's good question. And the other one, and another important thing is
welcome, Philip. Philip, thanks for joining us on Asian Americans Clubhouse tonight. We are because Dr. Zhang has been presenting using slides, and so I'm inviting everyone to go onto Zoom. It's a much more, much richer interaction. So the link to the Zoom meeting is at the top of this room. Thanks for joining us. So Dr. Zhang is talking about dilution-free investment from the US government for startups.
I think he cannot hear us. Maybe you can text to him. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Okay, so the second question is, so that's important to know. Second thing is about how long you have to be in business. For small, actually, in principle, and even someone just have idea, hasn't registered as a company, can also apply as individual. That's in theory, but I want to give you a practical advice is usually the reviewers, I've been one myself, and usually they would not view those favorably because there is no specific definition. You have to be in business for how long, but usually the benchmark they will use to review is looking for a company that maybe at least have like 2 years, kind of like a benchmark, so because they feel that they actually a real company, and not just kind of a not just for the project. They want to avoid someone just apply just for the sake of project, for the grant, rather than actually building a business and building and do innovation. So that's kind of give you, there's if you read online, they'll say everybody can apply, and as long as you're for-profit, you're small business, but you are required to register under SAM system, which is it's a federally regulated funding mechanism. If you don't have that, you cannot submit your application. And one of the requirements for register on that website is that you have to have a DON number. Everybody, small business knows what the DON number is, right? You have a DON number assigned to you. So that's kind of a practically, you have to have an entity, in the existence. You have to register with the federal government, and you have to have a DON number before you start. And also your question about the revenue, and they do not require you actually have to have a revenue stream before you apply. You can apply even without any revenue. That's okay. But if you do have revenue, you'll be viewed more favorably. So you'll have a little bit more advantage when you compete with other applicants. Any other
Thank
questions?
you so much, Dr. Xiao Yang.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you, Farah, and thank you, Dr. Zhang. So who will be the next to ask questions? You can raise up your hand, or you can type your questions on the chat. Either way is fine. Yeah, I see some friends here. So anyone feel like asking questions, then yes, still go ahead.
There's a question from Lisa Mendoza.
Yes, Lisa, go ahead. Yes, Lisa, please go ahead.
Hi,
Thank you.
hi. Thanks, Diana and Hong. I just have a question in terms of your experience, Professor Zhang. You've already done like 9 applications, successful applications. Based on those proposals that you've put out, do you see any trend with regard to which kind of projects are getting noticed more than others, or is it really just in the presentation of the project, meaning the grant writing methods, or is it the nature of the project, the merits of the project itself? Based on your experience, what have you observed?
Yeah. My observation in the past about 18, 19 years, I've been kind of in this. By the way, I received 9 funded. However, I probably apply like 15, 16. It's much more than that. So it's not. But I do observe there's a change over time, and the review process, people getting more sophisticated, if you know, because originally when I applied, the most people were reviewers were like academicians. And now they have a lot more business people. People have a business experiences, like myself, being invited, to join that. So I noticed that is definitely a trend change. So a good or bad, a good thing is academicians usually they're picking on small things. You didn't spell right, you didn't cite citation, you didn't find the most well-known expert on your panel, on your team or something. So that they are more into that. That's more academic approach, which could earlier on it really hurting small business, because small business, they're more innovative. They try to do something for the real world. They may not be that vested in the academic world. They don't know, a lot of those things. So they've been picking on, so they don't get a good score. So that was the downside. However, so now they include also the business people like myself and others. So we give them more real world view. So that's a plus. But there's downside too, because we already went through the process. We can pick on something that the previous reviewer never know. It's they don't know. They may sound logical, but we're in the real world. We say that won't work. That approach is, in that sense, our could kill the project. Just say, these people may be thinking, dreaming, but they don't know the real world. They can't deliver this. So there's both sides. So that's the one trend I noticed to change over. Second thing is what I found, the project, the proposal that's been viewed favorably. A couple of things. One is you really have to try to match what's your innovation with something that agency really looking for. Okay, I'll give you an example. One small business I'm coaching, they got a patent-based license. You know, they licensed the patent technology from University of Pittsburgh. You know, I'm in Pittsburgh, so I know them. Sounds like great, right? You have a patent technology, you're ahead of game, and then they start, and then but the technology they have is very generic. The technology is to use like augmented reality, virtual reality technology. Today, everybody go there in the meta world, right? Same idea. So they have this, they try to do medical simulation training, which is a good idea, but they train in general, like a nursing school, nursing general, you know, things. But when you do that, when they submit, then the critique is it's too general. We don't know how that actually address a particular problem the agency want to solve. So what I did help them, I say, okay, this is where you didn't. So I help them to match up with one of the national priority. You probably all know a big problem before COVID is something called the opiate overdose crisis, right? A lot of people die from opiate overdose. And in opiate overdose, and one thing is you have to really reverse the overdose effect very quickly within 30 minutes to an hour. Otherwise, people die, right? So they use the reversal medication. It's called naltrexone, right? And it's a narcotic, you know, they call it. So you can use that. But a lot of people don't know how to use it. So this could be a very good training subject. When you use virtual, use augmented reality to actually demonstrate how do you use that, and how after you use the medication actually affecting your breathing, affecting your blood pressure, affecting all the others. You can use virtual reality, all show that, you know, when you actually, so you use this simulation training. So once they bought this idea, and I have them talking to the agency, the National Institute of Drug Addiction, which is really focused on this, and CDC, all these people are focused on this. They immediately get a feedback from project officers. Oh yes, submit that. So when they submit under that topic, they got in first shot. The first shot they got in, they score like a 21 or something. They got funded, you know, just one shot without trying. So that experience shows me it's a matching. How do you may have a wonderful technology, but it doesn't address a particular priority in the agency. People don't put high score to it because they want to say, what's the impact of your technology into this? Does that answer your question? That's kind of what I learned. So you have to learn grantsmanship. You have to learn the game in a sense. That's where I help, and they become pretty successful. This company, and now actually they got a phase 2. They just received phase 2 last year and got $1.7 million. Now they're really ready to take the technology to the market next step. So it is that matching is so critical.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, so any other friends have questions? Please raise up your hand, or you can type your questions.
I think we got some questions in the chat, Diana.
Oh, in the chat, okay. So Professor Zhang, can you see the question?
Oh, okay, let me see.
There's one question is, do we need any certifications for the company to apply for?
Oh, okay. The only certification you need is you have to certify you're a small business. Of course, in the federal definition, small business is pretty broad. They're talking about any, if you're an IT company, high tech, usually they looking at your revenue. But if you are non-IT, non-high tech, and they actually use a number that's like 500 people. So most of small business can qualify that if you're under, you know, so that's the only qualification you need to have. You need to be a US based, you need to be for profit, you need to be registered as a small business. So you can register with Small Business Administration, SBA, you register and you certify your And another thing is they also ask you a question about whether your venture capital based, because if the venture capital control more than 50% of your equity, and then they have questions. They think this is maybe just venture capital just to, you know, they use a small business in the front end to try to get some money, you know, from government. So that's their suspicion there. So, okay.
Okay, I see another question. Other than holding IPs, is SBA a shareholder of the company?
Oh,
This is from
no,
Albert.
the government, no, the government is not part of the company. Government, okay, this is actually the best part of this funding mechanism. Small business retains the IP exclusively. The only thing that small business have to need to do is acknowledge. Let's say you develop this technology, you start sell to market, and you go to the conference, you go to place to demonstrate. You just have to note it. This particular technology was funded, you know, supported by CDC or by Department of Defense or whatever agency funds you. So you need to acknowledge. So that shows, and also you need to report back. Let's say you become successful. They want to hear your success story. You give them back, then they can go back to the Congress to say, hey, this program actually working, created so much job. So those things you want to do, that's they're looking for the government. They do not looking for be part of your company. They do not looking for own your intellectual property.
This is Hong. I have a question. Dr. Zhang, since, for example, phase 1, so actually it's sort of two questions wrapped into one, actually. So phase 1 is for a feasibility study.
Correct.
So if a solution is already working,
okay,
does it mean that it no longer qualifies to get phase 1? So that's the first question. And of course, the second question is, if it doesn't qualify for phase 1, can it go straight to phase 2? So my two questions.
Yes, the answer is yes. There is a program called the Direct Phase 2.
Oh,
you can actually apply. But usually the requirements, not only you should have a prototype of technology already developed and tested, and usually they're also looking for whether you already have some kind of a revenue, or even no revenue, or do you have some buyers or some potential customer already lined up, or you know, those they want to really believe you to say yes, you already done the feasibility, market already accepting, and your technology actually working. Then you can apply for straight phase 2. That straight phase 2, you can ask for up to $1.5 to $1.7 million, so you can bypass the initial. And there's another one. Actually, in those situations, I sometimes advise people do even a smarter thing, that rather than just go straight phase 2, you can say you can do a fast track. Your fast track means you combine phase 1 and phase 2 together. And so you can ask up to $2 million, you know, that kind of thing. So you go in and so basically you just say in that, when they review a fast track, they want to say, okay, have you already done your preliminary study? You have your testing market already done, whatever. Since that's in your case, that's already done. So you can leverage on that. So we've already done that. So we just want to quickly 6 months further validating this in the market, further validating technology, whatever, and you can phase 1, and then immediately after that, I'm going to go phase 2. So I want to make this a combined program. Then you can ask him for 2.5 years, ask for like $2 million or something right up front. So it's very challenging. Again, everybody's different, and I, for all those application, I only did one, and for the fast track, but I was successful. I don't know, it's just lucky. I already maybe pretty shrewd by that time. Kind of learn the game. I mean, what to say, what to know, you know. So I feel, but you really have to feel it. Otherwise, you'll be beat up, and they will say you don't know what you're talking about. They will give you. So those are harsh reality. So,
Thank
okay,
you.
but that's the answer is yes, there is a path to do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Zhang. Okay, there's a question in the chat from Jia Song. How long would the fast track process be? How long is the fast track process?
Actually, when you apply fast track, you go through the same process as you apply for phase 1, phase 2. Okay, that's the same thing. However, your odds for fast track, I have to say honestly, has to be much lower. In reality, it's much lower than your phase 1. Now, the whole idea behind the program is phase 1 is test feasibility. So they may, and the money is less, $250,000 less or $200,000. So usually they may fund usually, let's say 10 phase 1, but maybe only 1 or 2 phase 1s actually get phase 2 because they have more money and longer time. But also, so the phase 1 idea is they spend money on multiple projects and say who survives, who actually is better. So, and phase 1 is a much higher risk, but a much smaller amount. So they're willing to give you that. So that's kind of like a seeding. So they have a broad seeding and then say which one actually grow, come back. That's another thing. So that's another thing. If you can get phase 1, at least get sort of like get you off your feet, like your initial angel funding, from VC. But the good thing is, of course, you don't give out your equity. So that's really the main thing. And another thing is just technically, once you score, if you'll not get funded, then you only have one more chance. Used to be you can have multiple, but now they may make that into only one chance to resubmit. And then you're out, and then you have to start over again. So that's
one more question.
Okay,
Yeah.
David, go ahead.
So, like in case I fail this time, so next time can I submit the same proposal, like or make some change or some improvement or some progress?
yes. You have a second chance. You can resubmit the same application second time. However, the expectation is you will reveal all the critique they have there for you, and you want to address those critiques. Okay. There are 2 ways to do that. One is for phase 1, as you just submit, you only have 6 pages. You only allow 6 pages to write your application for phase 1. And then your phase 2, you still, when you resubmit, you still have only 6 pages, but you are allowed to add one more page called the cover page. So in the cover page, you can actually address all the critique and concerns you received by the reviewers. Then you can also highlight, maybe use italic or highlighting or whatever in your text where you made a change. So you can highlight, tell them, here's your critique. I address all your critique this way, and then you resubmit. You don't want to resubmit the same thing second time. No, they'll just, they don't even read it. They said, no, you have to have that. How do you actually respond to the reviewer's critique?
Have you succeeded by supply the second time?
Yes, and I had a couple. For the 9 grant I got, only like 2 I got the first shot. In most cases, I actually have to do second time.
Or you mean
not,
similar project to do the second time?
Oh yeah, they allow you to do a second time. So, but you want to really study hard, review and study the review critiques. You want to make sure you understand what they're saying and try to strengthen them. And in my past experiences, for example, I'll give you one example. The major critique they didn't score well for me is that I'm missing some specific expertise. For example, let's say I'm doing a natural language processing, natural language, using machine learning natural language processing. Okay, so their critique is, okay, you have all this, but you really don't have, you only have like their critique is like you only have like a PhD student leading the programming, right? And even though the computer science, information science, but you don't have the level of sophistication expertise for a more senior expertise. That was one major critique. So what I have to do is then I have to reach out, and in Pittsburgh, we have a very good computer school. That's CMU, Carnegie
Hello,
Mellon
Danny.
University.
Thanks for joining us on Asian Americans on Clubhouse. Tonight we had a special program. I think it's drawing to an end in any case, 6:30 to 7:30. Tonight we have a special program where Dr. Zhang was talking about how to get non-diluted investment from the government for startups. So yeah, I'm piping in the whole conversation here. We're drawing to an end anyway. So but you can join the Zoom meeting directly with the link at the top of the room. Thanks.
Okay,
Thanks,
so,
Paul.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
so I will finish up and to say, so what I did there for Dave, and just for your information, is so I reached out to University CMU, and I found a professor who is graduated from Yale University, way back in the 60s. And he was one member to start the very first US Natural Language Processing Institute at Yale. So once I got him as my advisor and consultant on the team, and we overcome that particular critique. So that's a kind of very specific things. You really have to work hard and to respond to their critique. And then, so you can see how that can make the connection. So just one example,
Great. So you mean that 7 out of 9 proposal you got submitted the second time?
Second, yeah. I mean, actually, I can tell you most applications get the second time, and very few actually get the very first time, because they always will find something wrong with that, because the reviewers are supposed to, they always find something you didn't think about, you overlooked it or whatever. For the first time you get in, usually it's the case like I mentioned earlier, it's a very good match. You match their interest very, very closely, and then they really want to fund it. So they have an incentive to fund it. But that's rare, and so.
I see. Thanks a lot.
So don't be disappointed if you not get funded first time, because that's majority don't get funded first time.
Great.
Okay.
Yes. We're almost there. So if anyone have questions, you can ask right now, and we will open one question and we'll wrap up. So anyone have questions and want to ask, please go ahead and do so.
There's one more question from Jia Song. So this question is for Dr. Zhang. How long will be the fast track process?
Yeah, actually, I think I mentioned that.
Yeah,
fast track actually goes through the same process, just like everybody else. Yeah, there's no difference. Yeah.
Okay.
But the review criteria will be harder. That's just one. It's definitely will be harder, because they, it's because you ask for more money, and the review criteria is hard, because fast track you'll review on both the criteria for phase 1 and the phase 2 in the same pass. So it's a much higher standard.
Okay. And someone asked that, can you share the link of the yes.
The link for the SBA
SAM,
program?
of SAM, yeah, of link of the SAM system.
Of SAM system, yeah. SAM is a registration. Your SBA, you're talking about SBA, right? Okay.
This is a question from Farah too, yeah.
Okay. I can see, let me see, where's SBA?
Oh, by the way, if if anyone really want to connect with Professor Xiao Zhang, and please contact us, and maybe we can organize a private meeting after this. So maybe you can contact Sandy. Sandy, you can put your email there. So anyone is really interested, and yes, let us know, and we will see how many people, and we can coordinate a time and meet with Dr. Zhang on Zoom. Yes.
Yeah, I think the small business just ask. Let me see. Let me try to see if I can get it. Okay. Yeah, I will give the Zoom. I'll post the website right in the chat, so you have it.
Okay, great, great. So have you shared the information on the chat yet?
Not yet. I'm gonna paste right here. Okay, here we go. Everybody can have. Yeah, just Sbir.